occurring in the Senate Intelligence Committee, the Judiciary Committees, subcommittees of those committees, that is a train wreck waiting to happen.
And, of course, the takeaway is that this could, in fact, be a criminal investigation. Lindsey Graham and others suggesting that yesterday, which obviously ups the ante. We had reports that the White House was lawyering up, Donald Trump lawyering up. So, Michael Schmidt, Rod Rosenstein, it's very interesting. He writes the memo despite the fact he knows that Trump wants to fire Comey regardless. So it's a very strange thing for Rosenstein to do. But it seems to be a guy that's deciding to be a team player and go along and actually undercut the independence of the Justice Department. But that was a concern that James Comey had, according to your reporting that's in the Times this morning.
Comey sitting in his office in March having lunch with a friend, and the friend says to him, hey, you know, Rod's coming on. You're going to have a Senate-confirmed Deputy Attorney General. And Comey says, yeah, he's good, but I've got some concerns. And the friend says, well, what do you mean? You know, this is a long-time federal prosecutor. He's been a U.S. attorney. He's respected. And he said, Rod's a survivor. And to be a survivor in the Justice Department, you have to give something up. And the thing is that it only took 2 weeks for Comey to see what Rod was really going to be like when he writes that memo.
But how interesting that Rod Rosenstein, as a survivor, makes a call earlier this week that is hailed as strong and independent. And then he goes to the Senate yesterday and he doesn't try to skirt the issue. You know, if he were another member of the Trump administration, he would try to muddy things up and say, well, no, I'm not wasn't exactly sure. He could have answered that 1,000 different ways. But instead, he said, yes, I knew about it.
You know, Joe, a couple of days ago, I sat down with Senator Durbin, who's on Judiciary, second-ranking Democrat, and he said, we strongly believe that this man was essentially set up, that he was instructed to do this either by someone in the White House or someone higher in Justice Department, which, of course, would be Sessions. And that is what we're going to try to get to the bottom of. So they got their answer in a sense, and that he confirmed that this decision had already been made. The frustration came, I think, when they couldn't get answers for him on who done it. Right? Yeah. Who was it? Was it someone? Because I said, well, who do you think it was? Was it the president? And he said, I don't think that the president would do that, but I think he might have someone else do it for him. And that was the answer that they couldn't get. Today, previewing today in the House, I think that you will see House Democrats now in this meeting take that baton and push him a little bit further. But Rosenstein had been warned up and down, your credibility is on the line here.
But Joe, this is really, but then Rosenstein appoints Bob Mueller as the special counsel to investigate this. And when the histories of this are written, I think we're going to say
that's what it's going to
that is the pivot point here. There's going to be before May 18th and after May 18th. Mueller, if you look at the history, he came in as FBI director 1 week before the 9/11 terrorist attacks. He was, my God, what the hell have I got here? He sat down with President Bush, and President Bush said to him, this can never happen again. And so what did Mueller do? 12 years as FBI director. He essentially took half of the FBI and made them counter-terrorist investigators, and we had no attack. He had a theory here. If there's any information about a terrorist plot in the United States, we're going to go all the way to investigate.
This is Rosenstein, you know, getting his credibility back, but I wouldn't call it out of the question that he could himself, because of those circumstances, become a witness.
Right. I think so. And Willie, all of this will play as a backdrop to a possible upcoming vote on the next FBI director, with Democrats agitated by what they learned yesterday, with a criminal investigation coming along the way. I've always liked Joe Lieberman a great deal. He's from my now home state. But at the same time, there is deep concern inside the FBI and also on Capitol Hill that you replace a fired FBI professional with a politician of any kind.
Yeah, I think it'd be wise to step outside the political realm with this choice, but it came out of Trump's mouth himself yesterday. He floated the idea that he's going to make a decision very soon. Remember, they said it could happen as early as this week. It would have to happen in the next few hours as he leaves for Saudi Arabia. But he said himself it could be Joe Lieberman, the former senator from Connecticut. We'll see. Let's go to Peggy Noonan. She writes in the Wall Street Journal, quote, "Democracy is not your plaything." Peggy writes, "History is going to judge us by how we comported ourselves in this murky time. It would be good if top Hill Republicans went en masse to the president and said, stop it, clean up your act, shut your mouth, do your job. Stop tweeting, stop seething, stop wasting time. You lost the thread and don't even know what you were elected to do anymore. Get a grip, grow up, and look at the terrain. See it for what it is. We have limited time. Every day you undercut yourself, you undercut us. More important, you keep from happening the good policy things we could have done together. If you don't grow up fast, you'll wind up abandoned and alone. Act like a president or leave the presidency," writes Peggy. Could it help? For a minute, but it would be constructive. Not just carping, leaking, posing, cheering, and tweeting, but actually trying to lead. The president needs to be told democracy is not your plaything. That's Peggy Noonan in the Wall Street Journal. And joining us now, columnist for the Washington Post, George Will. George, great to have you with us this morning. First, we're hearing from you on this. Just step in, and where are we in this political moment right now with President Trump, the connection to Russia, the appointment of a special prosecutor?
Well, it's very dispiriting because in fact, many of Mr. Trump's critics are becoming infected by Trumpism in the sense that they say on the one hand that he really needs to be perhaps removed from office because of his indifference to constitutional norms, and then they show their misunderstanding of constitutional norms by either trying to invoke the impeachment provision as though he's committed high crimes and misdemeanors, or the 25th Amendment saying he's unfit to discharge the duties of the office, which clearly is stretching the Constitution for short-term and partisan measures. With regard to Mr. Mueller, that's mildly amusing to me because, especially on the right, but also on the left, there's been a non-stop screech against the establishment for years. If you had in the dictionary the word establishment and illustrated it with a picture next to it, it would be the picture of Mueller. Born in New York, raised in the Philadelphia Main Line, St. Paul's School, where he's Athlete of the Year, Princeton undergraduate, officer of Marines, University of Virginia Law School, reticent, public-spirited. This is what the establishment looks like at its best.
Wow. George, you've just impressed me. I'm thinking about my misspent life. Roll Tide. That's quite a lineup. And you are right. It is the establishment. I want to ask you, though, to follow up on what Peggy wrote this morning and ask you, because we talk about it around the set. Washington's been talking about it for some time. Hey, George, have you seen anything at all that would suggest that Donald Trump is capable of absorbing facts, retaining facts, and then processing those facts to get an outcome that may not be positive but is less destructive to his presidency and to this republic?
Let me answer your question with a question. Can you name one thing that we've learned about Donald Trump since the inauguration day that we didn't know a year before the inauguration day? I think he's in character. The American people voted for this project. That is, they said, let's try improvisational amateurism. Let's try making the presidency an entry-level job. Let's try putting in the presidency the first person in American history to have not a day's experience in public service, civilian or military. They voted for this. Now, whether this man can be made compatible with the functioning of a Republican agenda is one question. Let me suggest that there are two good things are certain to come from the Trump presidency if it persists as it now is. First,